So I'd like to just welcome everybody to this afternoon, evening session on the IMS stream for the UK GSE virtual conference, which is on the second day now. So this is the sixth session of 8. So we've got 2 more tomorrow, and this is the last session for today. So it is on Ansible and cloud native development, the easy answer to automating and modernizing your IMS environment. So we have Hallie Fung from who's from product management on the IMS side, and she also does a lot of the off mainframe stuff as well with interaction within IMS for IBM Z. Very passionate about that, and she's been doing this for a good few years now. I know she's also an esteemed deliverer of presentations across the world for these kind of things. So we'll welcome Hallie again. Thank you. And alongside her, we've got Bryant Paniashan, who is Ansible lead, and I think he's is an architect. So and has been liaising with a lot of IMS mainframe and obviously middleware people when with some of the solutions that we've had. So any questions that anybody has, then please you're able to physically ask them. So you can verbally ask them during the session. They don't mind interruptions, brief ones, and they'll try and attempt to answer your questions as time goes on. There's about 9 people in the stream now. So what I've done is you just have to unmute yourself in order to ask that question, and we'll open up the questions towards the end as well. But if you've got any burning ones, please verbally ask them, but obviously unmute yourself. So we're over to Hallie first for the first part of the presentation. Over to you, Hallie. Thanks.
Thank you, Dominic. So welcome everyone joining our session. I'm very excited to talk to you about IMS and the Ansible as well as the area of the cloud native development today. So I'm going to kick off the session a little bit, and I will co-present with Brian, and he is the expert in the Ansible as well as in the IMS area. So we're very excited to give you a little more deep dive in those areas in this session. So I don't know how many of you actually attended my earlier session. We talk about the overall, solution for IMS in terms of modernization. And one thing that I did highlight in the previous session is one of the really hot and popular, exciting areas is in terms of the automation. So in this session, we're going to do a little more deep dive and give you kind of like some of the insight on the directions that we are going to, some of the upcoming and latest enhancement that we were going to investigate and work on in this area. So that's really new and exciting materials that we're going to share with you today in this session. So the 3 main topics I'm going to kind of touch on is I'm going to first talk about Ansible for IBM Z as a whole, like the offering that we introduced a couple years back and has been super popular. A lot of excitement that we have gained from our customer. A lot of customer has been looking into it, and then we'll dive in a little bit more about the Ansible collection, like for IMS. So what we have been make available in terms of allowing our customer to leverage Ansible in terms of automation. And then we're going to talk about the IBM Z and Cloud Modernization Stack, which is a brand new offering that introduced last year. And then we see that is a is a product and going to help our customer to get all these pieces together in a really easier fashion for you, your developer, right? And a system administrator to be able to fully embrace that cloud native experience in terms of developing or managing your applications and your data in the cloud environment for IBM Z and the IMS. All right, so let me kind of get started. As I mentioned actually in my previous session, right? We see that the importance of hybrid cloud, especially with our enterprise mainframe customers. Many of our customers throughout the years have adopted a lot of different technology. Many of them has many different types of application infrastructure. They are adopting a lot of different different clouds, whether it's a public cloud or a private cloud. And IBM infrastructure is the foundation of the hybrid cloud and AI strategy, because we see the tightly integrated IBM software, including the Red Hat and CloudX, for accelerating hybrid cloud benefits. Because we did talk about earlier is the importance of embracing the new cloud infrastructure together with your on-prem server, right? So that you can leverage your existing investment for your transaction and data, instead of migrating, which is very risky, moving that around, which is very risky, as well as we have seen many of customers actually, fail to actually do so. So the important for us is to embracing this hybrid cloud infrastructure by leveraging your existing on-prem workload, but be able to manage it and in a cloud-like fashion, such that they are modern, they are easy to maintain, they can be automated, and they are efficient and to be used for the different application needs. So for the whole infrastructure perspective, and there is one of the key components that I see that tying all these pieces together, which is the Red Hat cloud platform. So specifically, one of the key things that we have introduced and adopted to support IBM is the Ansible automation platform. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about our offering in terms of how we actually bring Ansible to be able to support the IBM Z environment. One of the first thing is why we actually choose Ansible automation platform, right? So as many of you know, one of the challenges for customer, using the IBM Z platform is one of the big thing is the skills issue, right? And so throughout the years, as I talked about in my previous session, we continue to evolve and innovate to make sure that we put in all the open standards into our solution, particularly for IMS, to make sure that customer will be able to adopt, industry popular platform and standard, minimize the requirement and skills for proprietary tools and skills. And so we continue to evolve from that from that theme. So when we kind of look at how we were able to help our customers to be able to, do more, efficient automations on the IBM Z platform, Ansible is basically our top choice, because Ansible has been widely adopted by many of our enterprise customers already. So you may have been already using Ansible as your enterprise automation platform for your cloud-based or distributed-based application and environment. So it's a natural fit for us to add in the support for IBM Z, so you will be able to have one unified platform for doing all your automation needs. You can remove the dependency on mainframe specific skills for automating the mainframe platform. We would like you to be able to leverage the skills and one centralized automation platform and architecture within your enterprise. So, Ansible has many good things in it, and there's kind of like three key pieces. It is very powerful. It is using like a universal language to really helping you to build the automation script, and it can easily be scaled up. And it's very simple across the board and be able to manage across multiple domains. And one of the key things is it's actually agentless. So it's really easy to be able to integrate with different environments, right? Especially when we're talking about hybrid cloud environments that you have different application infrastructure behind the scenes. So Ansible is a natural fit, and that's why it's very popular. And it has been endorsed by the industry, right? Whether it is from infrastructure, company, cloud, network security, there are many big names has been endorsing and using Ansible. It's over 90 plus certified platform, over 100 certified collections, over 40K modules. And one of the key things about Ansible is it's really backed up by the community. So if you look at the whole Ansible community, that has a very vibrant and very active open source based community that customer is contributing, sharing information. So if you have a need to do whatever automation, maybe an application deployment automation, you will be able to find samples playbook that is already available, being contributed by some other people that you can actually adopt and use it. And in addition to that, in addition to the open community, right? Ansible automation platform can also back up with certified content. So those are being supported, right? You can open cases, and we will help you to address the issue. So we can pick and choose whether you want to have a service-based modules that is backed up by excellent teams, or you can actually start with some of the modules or sample playbook from the community base. So that was one of the popular reason is very popular, well adopted, is the number of people and clients that's been adopted the Ansible platform. So it's really easy for you to find solutions in the marketplace. All right, so let's talk about what we have delivered in terms of the Red Hat Ansible certified content from IBMC, which is an offering that we make available a couple of years ago. So we actually provide out-of-the-box solution from two different perspectives. One is through Ansible modules, cater for a specific IBM product, and I'm going to walk you through in the next chart. But basically, and then the second part of it is sample playbook that you can actually pick up and use for your environment. So in a combination of those two deliverable and offering, we really have covered automations, Ansible automation playbook that and modules that covers a variety of IBMC product in the portfolio. So, for example, we have Ansible modules that can help you to provision an IMS system. There are modules available for doing Kix resources, deploying Kix application. There are playbooks available for you to bring up a ZOS Connect system and automate to deploy, APIs. From a DB2 perspective, you can, do automation with Ansible to provision a application schema, manage MQQs, right? And there are many already able to use modules of playbook or script is already available today. So that's one of our key goal when we're building the Ansible offering, is we want to make sure that it is easy to use. We'll be able to adopt it. It is going through the open standard that's allowing you to really easy to pick up the automation script for you to be able to apply to your environment easily. Okay. All right, so so here is what we have available in terms of what we call the collections. So for each of the specific product, we have a set of modules and roles as available for the specific product. So today, out of the box with for the Red Hat Ansible certified kind of IBMC, we have 6 different collections that covering the the hardware management console collection. We have a collection for for KICS resources. We have a core collection that covers a lot of tasks that you need to do with interacting with the ZOS system, like helping you to submit jobs or looking at getting different data set and etc. For IMS, I've mentioned about we have modules for helping you to provision like IMS system, bring up like regions, right? Doing some of the DBRC commands. And then we also have a collection for COSMF as well as the C system automation collection. So those collections are available to you in the open source space Ansible Galaxy, as well as the supported automation hub. So if you already have Ansible in your enterprise that you're using it maybe on the cloud distributed platform, you are entitled to be able to also pick up all these collections for IBMC, and it's already for free. So as long as you have already have subscription to the automation hub, you can also pick up these collections as well. And then in addition to the set of collections that I mentioned is we also have many playbooks that is pre-written and span across multiple use case, multiple products is for ready to use. And we're also encouraging our customer and clients for contribution as well. So if you see the right-hand side of the screen, there are many ready to use pre-written playbooks for you to do, administration with ZOS, some of the basic operation like, working with the data set, right? As well as submitting jobs, as I mentioned earlier. And then we also have a few examples in terms of provisioning like IMS or ZOS Connect, and many more on this list. Okay, so I would like us to also touch on a number of different common use cases, right? So these are the use cases that we think is beneficial to our clients, but actually many of them is our early adopters for Ansible for C, our clients actually telling us, the opportunities that they see on how they will be able to leverage Ansible in terms of automation. And these are actually the use cases that they tell us that has been really useful in the environment. So I would say there are kind of like 6 categories of different use cases. First one is around provisioning and maintenance, right? So for example, you can use Ansible to help you to build and provision middleware, right? That will be helpful if you're building a new environment for your testing, or maybe you have to roll out fixbacks to hundreds of different servers. So you can use Ansible to help you to, automate the rollout of all the maintenance and then drive testing to make sure that everything is in place. Another really exciting area is self-service provisioning portals. We'll actually cover an IM example later on, but it's really empowering the application developer to be able to have their own sandbox environment. So, Ansible can also help you from that front. Configuration management is also a very popular use case, right? You can use Ansible to help you to, further configure your middleware or do network and security configuration based on your needs. Security automation turned out to be I think, one of the most popular use case when we were introducing Ansible to many of our clients, because they often find some of these security steps and process and configuration are still very manual based. So they see a huge value add for Ansible be able to help them to automate like, SSL certificate renewal, right? So they'll be able to use Ansible to help them to drive through that process and get rid of the existing manual steps. CI/CD and application deployment is also super popular, especially we see the trend of many of our customers is modernizing the DevOps process so that they will be able to, deliver their code much faster and in a more agile fashion. So with Ansible, it can play a key role to help you to orchestrate some of the application deployment, working with like a modern CI/CD pipeline to help you to drive those application deployment or application resources configuration, and then have it all automated together. Orchestration is another common use case that we see, especially kind of like the first step when customer getting into Ansible for automating for System Z, right? So many of our customers already have a lot of in-house automation that they may be based on JCL or doing Rex, but they are mostly siloed, right? So with Ansible, now they'll be able to leverage Ansible to build playbooks to just do simple orchestration, so they can have a more cohesive process, but now using Ansible to build a kind of a workflow or orchestration playbook to call the existing JCL. So that is also, I would say, like a stepping stone for many of our customers to explore or experience the power of Ansible. So instead of having them to write anything from scratch, they will be able to just do like a simple playbook to do the orchestration and see the power of how they can now building more cohesive, right, and automation together by integrating the existing automation that are already in place. And lastly is about collecting information from a kind of auditing perspective. So many of our customers also use Ansible to help to gather information around the system, especially for audit, like security audit, so that they can generate reports and or share the information with other team are looking for system status and health check. Okay, so those are I would say a list of common Ansible use cases that we have seen and we have heard from our client. So we're gonna walk through you an example, and I'm gonna have Brian to walk you through. Brian is our Ansible architect, and he works with many of our customers. So he can share with you a lot of stories about how we see customers adopting Ansible. So this is one of the sample use case. So Brian?
Thanks, Haley. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the specific use cases that we've got a lot of interest on, surprisingly, as again, working with a lot of customers. We've got at least 10 customers who done a lot of automation around certificate management. And here's one example, of a major US bank, who are currently managing 3,000 certificates a year. And the process typically had taken 1 hour per refresh. And this was a process that was based on a number of different manual sort of tasks, different jobs and rec scripts, and, having their administrators, manually run those and kind of monitor each of those processes on Z as well as off Z, right? Using different certificate management tools like Benify, as well as Digicert, depending on the environment. So taking a look at that, they were able to, automate that process using Ansible, reducing it, down to minutes, which ultimately saved them over 2,700 hours per year. And what that entailed was not only just using Ansible to drive some of those existing processes, but now, given that Ansible, one, lives off platform, right? It has the ability to orchestrate and has that visibility across all of their different environments. So the ability to automate against their other systems that they're managing the certificates for, as well as interact with their external certificate management systems like Digicert and Benify. So being able to now automate that entire process together into one consistent automated flow. So that really was, what enabled them to get a lot of this time savings. And, using for the ZOS side, right, this was simply on top of just automating existing, JCL and rec scripts that they had. In turn, the next steps after that was to now look at how we can do some of that in Ansible native, right, in our playbooks, right? And that's where they're able to leverage some of the modules that we have, specifically like the TSO command module, which allows us to, as in the name, run any sort of TSO or rackf commands in this case that we need. So anything such as, rack dsert, add ring, list ring, gensert, all of those things are able to be automated natively in an Ansible playbook with that module, which is provided by our ZOS core collection. Again, that collection provides a lot of the base capabilities for doing things like running commands, interacting with data sets, copying information to and from either data sets or control node or Unix system services, right? Anything that you need to do on ZOS, you want to start off with that core collection there. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of interest in this particular use case. We've also got samples around some of this, which we have a demo video, which is linked in this presentation that everyone will have available. But also, we recently did a webinar as well with Rabobank, who also talked about their certificate management solution and what they're doing using Ansible Automation Controller, or formerly known as Ansible Tower, to be able to automate some of that and how they're doing that across their environments and managing their files using VS Code and the like. So definitely an interesting webinar to check out for more detail on this. So on the next chart, what we've also included is just some additional client testimonials. I won't, folks can read this, I won't read them. But really, what you can see here out of this is, just some of the value and benefits that a lot of different customers have seen, right? And just a testament to, some of the benefits such as, being able to automate against their middleware, right? And some of the improvements that they've seen there, or just harping on the ease of use, right? And the simplicity of Ansible, being able to easily learn how to write Ansible playbooks, how to use some of the collections that we're providing for ZOS, which is, at the end of the day, the user experience or the developer experience is just the same as using any of the other community content and collections out there in the Ansible ecosystem. And we benefit from such a vibrant ecosystem and having a lot of resources available when it comes to just getting up to speed and learning how to develop Ansible playbooks and automation. Testimonials on how being able to get non-Z folks actually writing automation for Z, right? We've seen a lot of success there, especially in some of the interactions with our customers when we bring our ZOS system programmers or folks who are writing automation for ZOS, and then bringing in existing skills in Ansible who are already writing Ansible automation for other platforms, and they're able to leverage, again, our ZOS collections to be able to help write automation for Z. So we've definitely seen a lot of benefits there. And lastly, some of the benefits of the architecture that we've taken in our approach towards Ansible, right? Where today Ansible is the strategy for our automation solutions, but we want to make sure that we're also future-proofing that strategy, right? And what we're doing is we're ensuring that some of these base capabilities that we're leveraging from an Ansible perspective are being provided by other lower level interfaces that will be available in the future and give us a little bit more flexibility in terms of other opportunities for automation. So we are leveraging Python and ZOAU, which is Z Open Automation Utilities, which is providing a lot of those underlying C libraries under the covers that is providing that interaction from USS into MVS or the ZOS side of the house. So as you know, Ansible kind of goes in with SSH and interacts within USS, and ZOAU is a critical piece that provides us that next level of interaction into MVS here. So next, I'm going to take the screen here and actually dive out of this and show a little bit of what we've got outside in terms of resources and things here. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Desktop 3. Okay. Okay, so as Haley mentioned earlier, this is Ansible Galaxy, where you can access a lot of our collection content here. If you just do a quick search for IBM Z, ZOS, mainframe, you'll most likely turn up and find some of our collections here that you can see. But what I want to focus on a little bit more is the IMS collection. But firstly, I'll call out some of our download numbers, which you can see here. And again, our core collection providing some of the base capabilities. We've now reached over 105,000 downloads here. Clicking into the IMS collection, this is where you can see some of the information about the capabilities of the collection, as well as details around some of the different releases that we have available and how to install these collections on your local machine or your control node here. And I do want to call out up on the right-hand side some pretty important links here, which will take you to our GitHub repository. Again, all of these collections are developed out in the open source, so they all have GitHub repositories that you can go and dive and take a look at how some of these collections are working, as well as our consolidated doc site, which I'll go over to in a minute here. And if you'd like to keep up to date with some of these collections, you can also follow the collection so that you'll be notified when we have new releases as well. I'll go over to the content, which shows some of the modules and plugins that we have available for IMS. So, this just gives you a high-level overview. But what I'm actually going to do before I talk about some of these is switch over to our consolidated documentation page, which, again, this is another valuable resource that has all the information in terms of prerequisites, requirements, release notes, and things like that for all of our different content and collections. So if you go down to releases, you can see for the core or IMS collections, we've got details about what's changed between those releases. And most importantly, when we go over to each of the Ansible content sections and look at the module, this is where we can get another detailed view, and then we can actually look at each of the modules, and you can see information on usage, right, in terms of parameters, different examples, the summary of how to use these, things like that, as well as the return values here. So you can see, most importantly, the examples, which are extremely useful if you're starting to, just wanting to start off and use some of these modules. So stepping back here, the list of modules that we have available today, we've got some modules that help around doing some of the gens that we need for the IMS artifacts, right? DBD gens, PSB gens, ACD gens, right? All under the covers, invoking some of the standard IMS utilities there, but we've, intended to reduce some of the complexity as well in terms of using those utilities. So abstracted some of the various options, not removing any of the capabilities, but make it easier for someone coming into an IMS environment and learning on how to use some of these utilities and reducing some of the confusion and complexity around some of that usage. Similarly, we've got modules around interacting with the catalog. So catalog populate utility, as well as being able to purge the catalog. And then we've also got some general IMS command modules as well. So being able to submit IMS type 2 or type 1 commands, as well as our DBRC module for any other various DBRC commands as well. So with these, we're continuing to look at additional capabilities that are going to be helpful for our IMS users, right? From an automation perspective, we're looking at not only being able to reduce some of the complexity in automating against IMS, but also bring to the table some of the newer features and functionality that we're working on the IMS core side, and again, expose that via automation with Ansible as well. Some of the general use cases that, some of these modules and with Ansible in general enables from an IMS perspective is, provisioning, right? We'll definitely talk a little bit more about that as we talk about the IBM Z and cloud modernization stack and what we're doing there. But of course, being able to build your IMS applications and deploy them, issuing commands, right, to your various IMS address spaces for refreshing the different resources. And then sort of, again, thinking more broadly around how we can integrate these processes into some of your more broader, DevOps processes or system administration processes, right? Being able to provide automation for querying the status of different IMS transactions or programs, or populating a new catalog, or doing database management, right? All of these, we're just providing some of the building blocks to interact with IMS, and Ansible provides that framework for tying these things all together into a number of different IMS use cases. I will move over to our sample playbook repository as well, again, which is publicly available on GitHub. And what I want to highlight here is, one, this is something that we've curated over the couple of years here for a lot of different playbook samples touching on a number of different use cases, anything from just getting started, learning how to use some of the base modules and capabilities from our core collection, all the way up to more advanced use cases, provisioning infrastructure, working with SMPE, working and managing user IDs, right? As well as orchestration, working with ZOSMF, system automation, and most importantly, IMS, right? So we've got, from an IMS perspective, a few different examples where we've got sample playbooks for provisioning new IMS TMDB systems, as well as COBOL application deployment with IMS. We've got a sample for that as well, among others for other middleware as well, because I'm sure there's certainly a lot of other interest around CICS, MQ, and DB2. So there's a number of different samples there. So I definitely recommend folks taking a look at some of these if you're looking at understanding a little bit more and exploring some of the different use cases and possibilities that are out there with Ansible. So with that, spoken a little bit more in depth on IMS and some of the possibilities and some of the content and collections there. I think we'll hop back into the presentation here and talk a bit more on the IBM Z and cloud modernization stack. And with that, I think I'll hand it off to Haley to start off.
All right, thank you, Brian. So we will, let's go to the next chart, right? So one of the things, I mentioned that IBM Z and cloud modernization is one of the latest offering for IBM. Is the key goal of that product is to really help to bring the cloud native experience to the Z developer, for IMS developer, as well as the system administrator, right? So our vision is we really want to be able to have ZOS to be a vibrant choice of platform in a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud world. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we provide a cloud native experience for IBM ZOS that is consistent and familiar to developers and operators. So we want to, as I mentioned earlier, we want to minimize the onboarding time or the skill set requirement for any user to be able to develop on ZOS or to maintain and operate on ZOS. And so with the IBM Z and cloud modernization stack, we provide you an integrated set of offerings and capability across the portfolio that can help you with increasing the develop productivity by providing, IDEs that they're already familiar with. So instead of they have to learn, green screens or some of the proprietary environment for them to develop application, they would be able to just adopt a web-based IDE or using like VS Code that will be able to develop their application easily using the choice of the IDE. So let's, why don't we just kind of get into the next chart, and I will show you some of the key pieces within the cloud and modernization stack, really into 4 different categories, right? Starting with application analysis that allows you to visually look at your application dependency. That was really key for a lot of the mainframe application because, a lot of them has been out there for many years, and they kind of intermingle very closely with the other modules. So by providing you a out-of-the-box capability to help you to visualize the dependency, so to help the developer when they are making changes to one application module and how does it impact the other ones. It is very crucial for many of our developers. And then the other piece that is one of the key components out of the box from the cloud modernization stack is our API support. So as I talked about it in my previous session, API integration is one of the most popular modernization solution that adopted by our customers. So with our COS Connect support that is part of the cloud modernization stack, you will be able to easily create APIs to access your existing, IMS and transaction, and so that you can leverage your existing investment without the need of changing any of the code or moving things around within your enterprise. So it's very easy, no coding approach. And then the other two pieces is in the area of cloud native development, right? So we want to bring you a common cloud development experience across the enterprise, including for the mainframe. So we, out of the box, will have a different language operators that will provide you the development of Java or Python, Node.js, and Code that you can actually be able to use to develop your application running on the mainframe, and be able to integrate to the standard and enterprise-wide CI/CD pipeline as well. And in terms of the automation, right? So we are providing you a standard ID automation for COS, and a lot of those pieces are using Ansible as the backbone. So again, we want to reduce the need of specialized skills, empowering the developers. So there are a couple of cool features that come out from the cloud modernization stack, and one of those that we want to show with you is it comes with like a ready-to-use ZOS sandbox actually running on the cloud in the Red Hat OpenShift container platform. And then one of the new functions that we want to share with you today, and we have a preview program available, is to allowing you to self-provision an IMS environment running in the development sandbox that you'll be able to use for your IMS application development and test work. So we're going to switch on to that in a minute, and actually Brian is going to show you a demo on that new feature. Okay, so next chart, please. All right, so here is a couple of components that is included in the offering, which is basically the functionality I mentioned earlier. So including COS Connect, COS Cloud Broker, the WASI sandbox, WASI code, which is for the IDE development, and also the analyze. So those kind of cover all the functionalities I mentioned earlier that provide you a cloud native development experience. I also have the COS package manager, as well as a number of modern programming language that you will be able to use out of the box, from this offering. Okay, so with that, I think I will let's get into our new function that we would like to share with you. Be able to self-service IMS environment for your cloud environment. So I'm going to have Brian to walk you through this new addition that we're working on. Really exciting to share with you.
Yeah, thanks, Haley. So what I want to talk about, again, in terms of the IBM Z Cloud Modernization Stack, is what we've been working on around specifically leveraging the ZOS Cloud Broker alongside IMS. And firstly, the ZOS Cloud Broker, as mentioned, what that allows you to do is be able to manage your ZOS resources within a Kubernetes control plane. So OpenShift being that Kubernetes control plane. Alongside that, you are able to, with the Cloud Broker, manage your different ZOS target environments, be able to establish connections and manage your different users and authority and credentials that you are going to be connecting into those environments from OpenShift. The intent here is that we have what's called operators, right, in OpenShift. And I'll get a little bit more into detail on some of that in the next chart here. But what we've got today as part of the stack, right, as mentioned, we've got some of the open enterprise languages as sub-operators, as well as something that's called our ZOS package manager, which allows us to install things from OpenShift into our ZOS environments. But alongside that, we've got our IMS operator. And to start, right, we've got a broader initiative as well around different types of middleware integrations and lifecycle management of those middleware in OpenShift, but IMS being the first one here to be able to show. And with the IMS operator collection, this allows your different IMS system administrators to be able to set up an environment and enable your developers or other users to be able to provision an IMS to start, right, an IMS TMDB system on a dev test environment. And the intent here is we're going to continue to expand that to include additional operations, into the application space, the application deployment, and other IMS resources and interactions from OpenShift. So this view here is just kind of giving you a high level overview of what that sort of architecture looks like, where you have your OpenShift container platform, which can be deployed in a number of different ways, whether it be on your own hosted environment or in a cloud environment, right? As well as we have the capabilities for deploying on other hyperscaler environments such as AWS and Azure as well. So you can have OCP deployed in a number of different places depending on what your needs are. And then on top of that, deploying the IBM Z and cloud modernization stack, and then leveraging your licensing to allocate different VPCs to the different products that you intend to use, such as the cloud broker and our different operators. And once you have those deployed, you're going to be using the ZOS cloud broker to establish those connections, as you can see here, into your different subsystems. So just a general high-level overview on what that looks like. And how that's all enabled is via a couple of different things. Firstly, all of the different operators that are getting deployed are packaged and made available in a format, what are called Ansible operator collections. And this is a proprietary format that is a combination of an Ansible collection that is something that's already available today, and what we're leveraging with some of our other collections, right? Which consist of modules and playbooks and roles in this case. So we're providing some of that automation in these collections. And the benefit of that from a collection perspective and why we chose that is, again, it was already an existing format that was available for distributing content. Easy for us to include our IBM Z content as well as other community content for automation. And something that a lot of Ansible users from a general perspective are already familiar with. And what we've done is these are specifically tailored and are called operator collections in that we have also the cloud broker, which makes available something called an operator collection spec. Now, this is an additional set of metadata, a framework that the cloud broker is providing for users to be able to take their existing Ansible automation. So any Ansible playbooks that you might already have, or in our case, some of the IMS Ansible playbooks that we already had, and transform that into something that can be imported into OpenShift and generated into an operator without users needing to actually code and develop an operator themselves. So this is all built around what's called the operator SDK. So this is something that's available, again, for users to be able to develop their own operators in a number of different languages, whether it be Go or Ansible or Helm. Ansible, of course, was a language of choice for us. And we've taken some of that complexity out with this operator collection spec and the operator config.yaml for some of that translation here. So this, again, allows the import for any sort of Ansible collection from our customers. This interface is not yet available for customers yet externally, but that's going to be available very soon here this year. So what this also does is it also extends some of the Kubernetes APIs with new APIs, again, from the cloud broker, and allows us to take some of that Ansible automation and now have that lifecycle managed by Kubernetes and get some of that additional capability and stateful management that isn't there out of the box with Ansible here. So what I'm going to do now is actually hop over to a demo, which is actually a recording that I want to show of what it would look like to actually leverage OCP and provision a new IMS environment. Again, something that also is available with our hosted tech preview if folks are interested, but we're also looking at making this available very soon as well. So I'll go ahead and play this, and what I'm going to do is just talk through what we're seeing here. So firstly, this is OpenShift, our dashboard that you see from an administrator's point of view. You can see all of the different operators that you have available here. So I've got my z/OS Cloud Broker already configured and installed alongside some additional operators for our package manager in Python. What I'm going to do is actually go through and import and set up our IMS operator and provision that environment here. For the purpose of the time, I'm going to skip over some of this, but if anyone has any questions, certainly ask here. So what we're seeing is, the configuration of our z/OS endpoint, and this is just standard across all the different operators, right? Where I'm putting in z/OS endpoint information, a name, as well as a host, and the port that we want to connect with over SSH. What you're seeing here is the ability also to tune that environment with different variables. So for example, here I'm putting a step live location, which is going to be used specifically for our IMS step live, as well as the location to our Python interpreter, which you can see there as well. Once we actually have that z/OS endpoint configured, what we're going to do is actually import our operator collection from Ansible. Ansible, or what we're doing here actually, firstly, is configuring the endpoint with our SSH key and our Ansible collection that we've downloaded from Galaxy. So what you can see here is I'm actually downloading that and importing it into the Cloud Broker instance here. And after we do that, what we're going to do is now map it to the endpoint that we just created. So you can see here in this UI that I'm just dragging and dropping this z/OS endpoint to be mapped with our IMS operator collection. From there, we can set up our SSH key that we want to use to establish that connection. And with that SSH key, that's associated with a username, right? And if you happen to also have a passphrase associated with that SSH key, you can optionally specify that as well. And on import, you can actually validate that the connection is successful from the Cloud Broker, that we have that communication over SSH before we actually create this operator. So we go ahead and do that. And once that's successful, we'll create that operator. And then what we'll furthermore see here is that the IMS operator collection will now show up in our dashboard in OpenShift. And you can see that the status is going to update here and show that it will be installing. So once that happens, you can see this instance being populated here. You can see some of the details of what's going on in OpenShift. So it's kind of going through the cycles here of installing. And let's fast forward a little bit here. Let's take a few minutes for this to work in real time. So once it's succeeded, right, again, you can see some of the information in the details for this operator. And what you'll see here is, in this case, we've got our tab or custom resource for TMDB, which allows us to provision that new IMS control region. So once we dig into that, we'll go ahead and create that, and then you'll be presented with a panel here showing some of the information that you can use to specify for that instance here. So we can provide a name, as well as we'll go ahead and put IMS demo there. And there's some default variables here which can be used out of the box. So what we're doing for this first release here is also we're targeting, again, a dev test environment, specifically our WASI sandbox environments that are included with the IBM Z and Cloud Modernization Stack. So this is all tailored to be used by default out of the box with those environments. So some of these defaults here don't need to be updated if you're provisioning your first instance on those environments, but we do allow that to be tailored a bit here if you are provisioning multiple instances of IMS here. So you've got some simple things like an IMS SSID, various ports for ODBM, as well as IMS Connect to start, as well as your IMS Plex name. Now, we're only showing a subset of the variables that are available here. Of course, there's a lot of other defaults and things that can be tuned. And the intent there as well is that, again, all of this is going to be available and be able to be modified and repackaged by users to kind of tailor this to your environments as you want to kind of make adjustments to that to reflect more of the type of IMS environments that you have in your shops. But to start, we've got some of the very simple types of variables here. And when we click create, this is now going to kick off some of that automation, some of those Ansible playbooks, and provision that IMS system on that environment. So what you can see after we click create, you can click into this instance, and now you're going to see some of the tasks that are actually running under the covers against that ZOS environment. So with provisioning, as we know, there's a lot that goes on with setting up a new IMS environment. There's a number of tasks here. We're only seeing just the first few, but as we fast forward through, you'll see the status of succeeded once that actually does complete. And just to show, what that would look like after the fact, once you have that environment, you're going to see you're able to go into your WASI sandbox environment, and you'll see all of the appropriate IMS address spaces that have been provisioned under the prefix that we had specified, IMS WZ, in our OpenShift UI here. So this is, again, just a start to what we want to do with IMS. Again, we're going to continue to extend this for being able to provision and manage additional resources in IMS from OpenShift. And we're definitely interested in getting feedback from customers like yourselves on additional capabilities or how this would be useful in your hybrid cloud types of environments and for your developers here.
I've just got a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what user or what authority is this running under? Because obviously when you're setting up like a control region or an IMS system, there's various kind of high level things like APF and data sets and that sort of thing. So
Yep.
what authority does this kind of run under? Is it a user or is it a system user ID or what?
Yeah, so that's entirely up to you. So as some of the steps that I didn't mention that does require a little bit of thought and configuration beforehand is as we're creating that ZOS endpoint in the cloud broker, that does require the configuration for the SSH key and the user ID that's associated with that. So as you're importing and creating that SSH key, you would have, prior to that, created that set of keys with a user that has the authority for doing this particular task. So you would want to ensure that that user ID, whether it be a functional user ID or an actually dedicated user's user ID, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate authority to be able to provision and create the data sets, have access to the high level qualifiers, all those types of things. APF authorization for some of the IMS data sets is also required there. So something to consider beforehand.
Brian,
does that answer?
Thanks. Yeah, that's perfect.
Brian,
I will mention, just on that note, I will mention that there's some enhancements coming to the cloud broker as well in the future that I'll allude to that gives a little bit more granular control around a persona who's actually doing the installation of the operator on OpenShift, and then being able to say, okay, I want to make this available to different users in OpenShift, but then I want them to use their own credentials that they have access to, or limit operators to use another set of credentials and have a little bit more granular control here. Whereas in this particular demo here, it was not quite as flexible as what we're looking to do in the future. So there's some more enhancements coming to that particular space.
Hi, Brian. Just a quick one on the just further back from say RACF and stuff like that, but the ZOS Cloud Broker, is that free offering or licensing wise, or I mean, I know obviously a lot of it's open source stuff here, but is that available free?
The ZOS Cloud Broker is not available for free. So that does require licensing. So you can get how the IBM Z Cloud Modernization stack works is you do get a general license around that, which gives you basically capacity for VPCs, which you can allocate to different offerings as part of the stack. So you get access to a number of different offerings, whether it be WASI Sandbox, the Cloud Broker, some of the ADDI capabilities, editors, and then it's up to you within your license allocation or capacity to decide where you want to allocate some of that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, I'll pass it over back to Haley to close us off here.
Thank you, Brian. So with the demo you just see, we're also very excited to share with you is you can also get your hands on and have a interactive sessions with us if you want to try it out yourself. The IMS operator collections for provision IMS TMDB system. So we have this preview program available. It will be just a WebEx conference call that we can get you access to one of our server to try out the IMS operator collection, and it's for free. You don't have to install or anything. All you have to do is follow this link in the chart that we show here. Is actually we have just published a new blog talking about this new offering. So at the end of the blog, we'll have a link for you to actually sign up. So for any of you interested to know more and want to play out yourself, please go to this blog and sign up for our preview program so that we can get contact with you to set up a session. So we value all your feedback to help us to continue to build more solution in this area, right? Really trying to get more and more cloud native experience to your administrator as well as the developer. So we think that this is one of the key building block for us to get to that experience to you. All right, so I know we are out of time a little bit. I just want to point out a couple of different slides for you to take a look, and those are very important. So for any of you who are interested to learn more about Ansible for IBM Z in general, we have a community being established, and actually we have monthly call talk about our upcoming offerings. We have also client sharing the experience. So for those of you who want to know more and how to leverage Ansible in your environment for IBM, for System Z, we highly recommend to join our community so that we can get you onto those monthly calls for us to share information. And all the past recording is already available in the community site. And then we have also the Z trial available. So again, Z trial is a no installation, required. You just have to request our system, so you'll be able to access to our environment to try out a couple of scenarios to help you to build simple playbooks to use Ansible to interact with the ZOS system. So there's a link included in the presentation, so you can register and get your free trial to try out Ansible for IBM Z. And then lastly, we have a lot of content available in the community. As Brian mentioned, that we have a lot of sample playbooks available. We have also a lot of blogs talk about demo videos to showcase some of the examples. So we highly recommend you to take a look at some of these blogs and content. So for those of you interested to learn more about Ansible and how it can be applied to your enterprise. All right, so with that, we also have more information about the cloud modernization stack that we just talked about. So if you want to learn more, here's the link to get you to the product documentation and also some of the additional information that you'll be able to find on their website. So lastly, thank you for all of you that stay and join us with this session. This is definitely one of the new exciting areas. So if you are still learning about this, you want to get more information, feel free to contact one of us, whether myself or Brian. We are happy to set up one-on-one session to walk you through in more details or help you to get started to kind of using Ansible to modernize your environment. So we're happy to, give you some guidance to help you get started. So just reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you more. Okay, so last but not least, please submit your session feedback. You can, scan the QR code that will be able to get you to the online, link to give us some feedback on how we can continue to improve our session and provide the information that you need. Thank you very much. And thank you, Brian, for, presenting together, and hope you all enjoy this session.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hallie and Brian. That was great. And just briefly, the 5K is the session, so feedback in the QR link at the bottom left there. And can I just ask whether you've uploaded the slides to the agenda so that people can access those?
Yeah,
for those links that you've got.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Fantastic. And any more questions, then please just unmute yourself and ask that question now if you've got any other questions you'd like to ask. It's the end of our session today, so I don't think we've got any. We certainly haven't got any on the IMS stream. So if you've got any burning questions, then please ask now. No? Okay, so thank you very much, Ali and Brian, for that, and thank you everybody else for joining the session and making it interactive as well. So much appreciated, and look forward to you joining the next sessions tomorrow. And there's 2 more IMS sessions, so thanks for joining today, and have a good rest of your day, and take care. Thank you.